Hello everyone and welcome to another video in the Random Language Learning Tips video series. Today I would like to talk about a technique which is called intensive listening. Now, I'm not really sure if it's called intensive listening because I've never heard anyone use this technique or give this technique a name. But 10 years ago when I started using it, I called it intensive listening. So what it does is, and what it is aimed at is helping you work on the understanding or listening part of the language. So what you do is it's really very simple and very portable. You can do it almost everywhere, not everywhere, but almost everywhere. You first of all have to find suitable audio, which is an audio of living language. So that is not something that is from a textbook, not something that is not even an audiobook, because that's artificial language. That's something that someone has written. It's not really what happens when people talk. And the best thing would be probably finding a good YouTuber, someone who's talking in first person, talking about where he's been, what he thinks about this and that, where he's going, and stuff like that. In other words, using a lot of the expressions that you yourself need to be using as someone who's learning the language, and very often in our Western languages, using the first person singular of verbs. So that means I'm doing this, I'm going there, if I had been doing this and that. So exactly what you need to do. Pretty difficult to find sometimes. Alternatively to that, you can listen to either the news or some talk shows when people talk to each other and interact a lot. But it has to be living language. So like I said, no audiobooks, no textbook, audio, nothing like that. As soon as you have your suitable audio, best thing would be probably about 15 minutes, something like that. You just listen to it, but you have to concentrate a lot and concentrate on everything that is basically going on in the recording. So you play the recording, and as soon as you get to the first expression that is stopping you from understanding what's going on, not every single word, you don't need to pause with every single word, but as soon as you get to an expression or to something that, I don't know what they're talking about, you have to pause, go back, and analyze what's going on in the recording, what the person is saying, and open a dictionary. I use Google Translate because I like it very much, but you can use basically any dictionary that you like, but electronic because everything else is just going to take a lot more time. And try to guess the spelling of that word. And try to find which word or expression was in that particular piece of that recording. And then rewind and play again, until you subconsciously, automatically understand the word in that context. Now, of course, it's not going to jump into your active memory right away, but this is the first step. And you just continue with the recording and get to a next point in that recording where it stops you from understanding what's going on in the discussion or what the person in the monologue is saying. And do the same thing. Try to guess the spelling. Try to find the suitable word which fits that context. And then rewind and play again. And after a while, go back to the beginning of the recording and play the whole thing again. But the key point is that once you get into that stage where you're sort of starting to feel mixed up and you don't know what they're talking about, you have to concentrate very much so that it really feels like you understand the word. Now, you're not fooling your brain or anything. You're just making it work harder. Of course, this is not something that you can use with every language. Some languages are too difficult. This is not going to work with Chinese. You cannot, if you're a beginner with Chinese and you would look for a Chinese YouTuber, and would try to work like this on what he's saying, it's not going to work. It's going to be a terrible waste of time. But if you are an Italian person learning Spanish, you can do this. If you're an American person learning German and have maybe like a A2 B1 level in German, you can start doing this. Really finding living, authentic, organic audio of a YouTuber talking in German of what he's been doing during the day. Just play, and you can use this. Method to improve your listening skills incredibly. Now, once you get through the entire recording and you have analyzed basically every single blind spot that you couldn't understand, play that recording over and over and over and over until you can really fluently, with no problems, understand everything that the person is saying, right? And a very good thing is to note on a piece of paper or into a Word document the expressions or the words that were creating those blind spots, and review them, I don't know, every once in a while. I used to do it every evening, but maybe even more often is good. Yeah, so that's about it. It's aimed at improving your understanding, because by doing this, you concentrate much more on what is said, and basically by analyzing the text and going through these blind spots and rewinding and playing it, rewinding and playing again, that one section, 3 sections at a time, and then the whole recording, and then working on it, is something that is very, very, very useful. The point is that you are really trying to decode what the person is saying, concentrate on it a lot, and then the repeating factor is incredibly important, because you solidify the structures that the person is using and the new vocabulary that you acquire. And there's only a finite number of structures in a language that a person or that native speakers of a language can use. Once you familiarize yourself with about, 80, 85, 90% of these structures, the next thing you can do is go from intensive listening to mass listening or extensive listening, where you just listen to a lot of authentic, organic material, so that you create this this big subconscious structure of the language somewhere in the back of your mind, and you will have all these language structures and constructions and vocabulary just flying around in your brain, creating this matrix of the language, creating the structure of the language somewhere in the back of your mind. This doesn't mean that you yourself will speak the language suddenly very well just by intensive and extensive just by doing a lot of intensive and extensive listening, but it will surely help. So if you're a beginner, not complete beginner, but let's say at least A2, B1 level of the language, you can use this. And now you have to remember, I said, if you're a Spanish person learning Italian or an American learning German, you are not a complete beginner to the language. Especially if you're within the same language family. If you're an Italian learning Spanish, you know so much of the language already. All you need to do is start decoding it, start realizing what the differences are between the two languages. And intensive and then extensive listening is a very good way to do that. Now, of course, I said in earlier videos that I think that practicing a language is the best way to learn a language. In other words, talk as much as you can, talk to people as much as you can. But it's very difficult if you don't understand what the people are saying. So with intensive and extensive listening, you can bypass this problem. You can learn how to understand what people say on your own. And when you talk to people, you can work on the output and the production part of the language. So that was it for this tip. Hope you liked the video. If you like, subscribe, share, all the good stuff, and I will talk to you in the next video. Bye-bye.